The Lounge, proudly brought to you by Johnny Walker. Keep walking.
Good evening. Welcome to The Lounge. My name is Sakyi-Addo. The Lounge is brought to you by Johnny Walker. Keep walking. And it comes to you from the Equator Bar at La Palm Royal Beach Hotel. Now, there are men and women who manage somehow to keep under the radar even when they are sitting glaringly on top of it. When they rock the boat, the occupants presume the random movement to be that of a swaying hammock and are promptly lulled to sleep. Kojo Yankah is one of such men. He is a politician without being a politician. He is a PR specialist without coming across as slick and fork-tongued. He is a teacher who listens, a writer because he reads, a pan-Africanist who embraces the world. He smiles despite trauma and adversity. How has he calibrated so delicately for such a long time, over 7 decades? Kojo Yankah, founder of the African University College of Communications and author of Our Motherland, My Life, a recently launched autobiography, joins me for drinks on the lounge at the Equator Bar at La Palm Royal Beach Hotel in Accra. Welcome, Uncle Kojo, as I like to call you.
Thank you, Keiko.
Thank you so much for making the time to join us. Very colorful book. The cover, the cloth, your kente cloth, and of course the Africa golden continent, not the dark continent. Beautiful. I think everybody should get a copy. We'll dig into it in a minute. But how have you? What's the magic with your capacity? This capacity somehow to calibrate the negative and the positive, to connect the red and the black cables so effectively, so so efficiently over the years.
I think it's a combination of values. We are born into an African family. There are certain basic values that come with being born and named an African. All the various rituals that go through naming you make you, even at the age, at 8 days old, you are taught the truth and the untruth. When they dip a leaf on your tongue and it's water, it's water. If it's alcohol, it's alcohol. That's the symbolic meaning, the truth and the untruth. So there are basic African values. And then, of course, sayings like "Ubinchre abufra yami," making you spiritual right from there. And then also knowing your environment. Wherever you are born in Ghana, your environment, if you know it very well, makes you want to know more about it. In our time, even the leaves and plants behind your mother's house, she wanted you to know what they are, what they represent. That's why they would go back to the kitchen and bring up, they go back to the, behind the house, bring some leaves, put in the soup, you don't even understand. But we've lost all this. But I'm saying that all these were part of the teachings. And of course, my father was a school teacher, strict disciplinarian, giving you the basic necessities of life, how to grow. And
but many people who grew up like you, but are not like you.
Yeah, they abandoned them. I went to a school that also taught me to respect culture, elders, respect your other people in your class or
your peers.
Your peers and so on. And then the question of building upon what you have met is important. So these are basic values. And then, of course, we had our national anthem. Ifremamo, I wish that his Yankah Assassini was the real national anthem, because it's a real call to order, building a character. Whether the nation will do well or not depends on the character of the people. It has nothing to do with the religion or party, colors, or anything, but the character. And the character should take you along. And, our elders said so. Nature. And character is built up with values. There are demonstrated values that people demonstrate, but then you must also have the inbuilt values, which should get together with you. So it's a character, basically, and if you have that surrounding you, you really move through society.
So why have we lost it?
I think
what happened?
Where
did we go wrong?
Western culture, I think, took a lot of it. See, we went to school. We started in the Gold Coast singing "God Save the Queen." After independence, lift high the flag of Ghana. We were getting there, and I must say there are certain things that a lot of critics take a look at and say, "Oh, the young pioneers were bad." I did not find anything wrong with it, because, see, having gone through several years of colonialism, we needed a new orientation to love our country, and that's what it all was. The ethics of young pioneer movement: love of country, respect for our culture, selflessness, respect. Yes, it kept on talking about these are values that you would want every child to have. Of course, people were against the portion that talked about Kwame Nkrumah as a redeemer. But even then, in our true local sense, redeeming us from independence, after all, Osajifo, the term Osajifo, was conferred on him by the Ashanti. So there was really nothing, but we made a fuss of it. Of course, there were a lot of exaggerations. That's another story. But point I'm making is that as youth, secondary, primary, secondary, all these new values came into us. Love your country, basic, because we had been taught geography of, British Isles, North America, Canada,
the prairies,
and the prairies, our own continent, our own country. We didn't know. There are still young Ghanaians who dare not go anywhere. Now, bring a map of Africa and ask them to point you where Zambia is. It's tragic. But we were taught those days to know your Africa and then know your continent. The whole idea of Ghana's independence being meaningless without involving the rest shows clearly. And even now, you cannot be economically independent while the rest of West Africa or the rest of the continent is not independent. So it falls.
We're stronger together.
They're stronger together. So all these are, bits and pieces that he found. So if you ask me why we lost it, in an attempt to reject anything that Kwame Nkrumah and his team and the founders did, we imposed more Western ideas. So we even started hating our own country. We even started in the schools. You see, we also had a lot of teachers who had studied the Western mode, and that's all they understood. In our time, civil servants at some point were given a holiday to go to their villages for festivals. The whole idea was to get back to your roots and understand what they are doing, understand the customs, be part of it, so you don't lose your roots.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, how many people in Accra would want to go back for? They will probably go for a funeral and come back. Yeah. But for festival, they think, and again we had, exaggerated Christianity, which makes everything, evil and all that. So even your own festival, which was more of a get-together of your own people, we all lost them.
So you got an opportunity, let me jump forward a little bit. You got an opportunity when you became a politician to head the Central Region as regional minister, and later, of course, Ashanti region. You did a lot of work in the Central Region with leading Pan-Africanist and SEDECOM, which is the Central Regional Development Commission, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about this. And you've got some fantastic pictures in the book, by the way. It just really brings back memories about Pan-Africanist and what it did. Right. Can you just walk me quickly through the whole idea of Pan-Africanist?
In terms of context, Central Region, although I grew up from the Central Region, I didn't know it was the fourth poorest region in Ghana after the three northern regions. So now, having gotten there as regional minister, I didn't see myself just as pure doing administrative work. I had to be creative and think about what can really set Central Region well for the rest of the region to benefit from. So first was tourism. Tourism, without a doubt, with all the forts and castles in the region, and then with Pan-Africanists, Ifwa Sutherland had created Pan-Africanists. Even in Accra, I was head of the publicity committee. So by the time I go to the Central Region, it had done two versions. So the idea was, why don't you
ramp it up?
Ramp it up. Because here was a product that, if we had maintained, would have made so much economic impact on the Central Region.
So you must have seen tourist arrivals just spiking.
No doubt about it. And
tapping into the African American market, the African diaspora.
The Caribbean African diaspora coming in their numbers and having hotels filled up to the point that people had to go to the Western region to look for accommodation.
Which created the opportunity for new
hotels to spring up. So many more hotels. The Elmina Beach Hotel we talk about is a product of Pan-Africanist, and Cape Coast Hotel, a lot more.
So the economy, the Central Region economy was stimulated.
Without doubt. And I mean, you can imagine during Pan-Africanist taxi drivers charging in dollars, giving you from year to year $7, $10, it was fun, but it was impacting the economy. And, but that was one major product. Mm-hmm. Then you had to, as a regional minister, I said, listen, here we are, tourism from Accra to Cape Coast, 3 hours, 4 hours, why can't we develop an airport? So yeah, with the assistance of civil aviation, Ghana Airways, mm-hmm. and the armed forces, we looked at various places in Cape Coast that were possible, and we found a place near Yankah for an airport. Private sector led. I got private sector to pay for feasibility studies. And all that I needed was to pick a telephone. And they all paid because it was useful. And then we got private sector again coming forward, say we are interested. As soon as it went into the press, they say, here we are, BOT. We got 3 offers. But here was I, because it was regional, I said, let me go back to Accra. I sent the whole document to Accra. The Salia was the Minister for Transport. He said, no, wait, it will go to cabinet meeting. After one cabinet meeting, he calls back to say it's been shut down.
And that was the end.
And that because we are doing the Accra Cape Coast Road. And now we even spend more time. Now, that was 20 years ago. So if we had had an airport, now from Accra to Cape Coast, 30 minutes.
How long did you spend as regional minister in the central region?
Interesting, only 2 years.
2 years. And then on the 6th of December, as you were driving, you hear the announcement that you've been appointed to the Ashanti region.
Another take. So,
came to you as a shock.
Big one. And as I'm sitting, I don't remember having any letter transferring me just by radio, you know. And so, but even before Ashanti, look at education. We looked at education in Cape Coast, and we used about 100 National Service boys to figure out why, you know, there are a lot of dropouts in Cape Coast and the various parts of the region. We did all this, met parents, met religious, traditional leaders, and found out, we found that the reasons, whole lot of reasons. But the important thing is we had to launch a go to school campaign because 10% of people of Cape Coast were in all the top schools in Cape Coast, only 10%. And it's spread across the region. So we have a region which has less than 15% of its products in their own schools up there. The highest number of people who came from outside to Cape Coast were from Accra, second from Ashanti, and third maybe from the Eastern region. So we also embarked on getting this. And then I went to Mfansipim School and got the headmaster to show me where did Kofi Annan sleep when he was a student. He was surprised. I said, you know what, we're going to use your school as a Kofi Annan holiday camp for BEC students. I got the Ministry of Education. We are going to run a holiday camp for 1 month for free. For free? How are you going to pay for it? Again, I just picked the phone, called private sector, give me 2 bags of rice, give me 2 bags of garri, 2 bags of this. Mfansipim School catered for them all. I got volunteer teachers from all the schools, and incredibly, we ran a full month, and on top of everything, while they were graduating, you get news that Kofi Annan is visiting Ghana. So we bring him to Cape Coast.
Right. You know, so July 98 or something like
yes.
that.
So these initiatives were necessary to stem the level of poverty in the region. And unfortunately, we didn't get far, and we had to move to Ashanti. So
I'm just looking at some of the pictures here of, you know, the Pan-Africanist days.
Mm-hmm.
There you are with your brother Kwesi.
Yes.
I wouldn't have recognized Kwesi.
No.
Yeah. And then, Wafuna, with the World Federation of UN Associations.
That's right.
Usut,
My old, small. Yeah, I tell you.
Yeah. You got these pictures with Sam Nijoma.
Mm-hmm. Sam Nijoma went as a journalist. Mm-hmm. About 13 of us were invited to join the UN team for the first elections in Namibia. And it was a big privilege. You know, we stayed there for close to 8 weeks. We took part in the education campaign before the elections.
And you became personal friends.
Yes, you know.
As well as with his successor.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And I wrote a book on Namibia, the story of Namibia.
Right.
Yeah, so...
And I see there's a picture here of Louis Farrakhan visiting you in your office at GIJ.
At GIJ, yes.
Where you were director.
Yes, I was director. He visited Ghana, and then he came to address the students at GIJ. And we had a chance to have a private chat in the office.
And then your visit to Jamaica, and you're there with
Jamaica.
PJ Patterson, the Prime Minister.
That is right. That is right. We invited the Jamaican, not only the contingent to Pan, but also their football team to come and play the Black Stars, you know, at that time. Yeah, memorable days. Yeah.
Yeah. And then here you are with Winnie Mandela.
Yeah, we invited her to Panafest as well.
Right. And you're in the picture with Chester Eni.
That's right. Pinto.
And George Pinto.
George Pinto.
Yeah. My friend and former boss during my 6 months in PR.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Excellent. And then here you are with Guy Warren, Ganaba, and Kowaka.
That's right.
Opening Panafest in '97. Okay, so there's a photograph with Kofi Annan and his wife visiting
when
the...
they visited, I took them around the Cape Coast Castle.
And the students.
And the students, you know, I must say that this went on for 2 years. As soon as I left Cape Coast, it collapsed.
What a shame.
So if you had produced 50 of those kids every year, 70% of them, according to the Ministry of Education, ended up in the university.
So then you were yanked away, yanked from Cape Coast, Yankah yanked to Kumasi.
Ashanti.
To Ashanti region, unceremoniously. But you turned lemon into lemonade.
Yeah.
Tell me about Kumasi and how you struck this relationship with Menchia, which has lasted over 20 years.
Yeah, right. It started with Opokuwari.
Right.
You know, as soon as I was introduced in December 1999, he said, you know, I've heard what you are doing in the Central Region. The way you were Central Region, but it struck me. I said, wait a minute. So it means somebody is monitoring me. So yeah, we struck good relationship. He opened his doors, and I think the impact I may have made was an opportunity gave me to address the Ashanti Regional House of Chiefs, Asante Man Council, on my vision for Ashanti. You know, so I laid bare. Ashanti has potentials, but just like Cape Coast, you had to bring the potentials together. I built a website in no time. I did a catalog of projects that could be possible in tourism, in agriculture. You know, they have so much also to show, but not developed. You know, so. And then I also said, listen, here you are. There are only one festival, basically, Akwasidai. So I put a team together. Let's do the Yasantua Festival. Again, another creation. And then let's look at Busum Tree. Has been there for 100 years. But, you know, just there, Lake Busum Tree is just there. It could be one of the biggest tourism attractions in the world, you know, if it were properly developed. So we held a conference and put a team together to design a master plan for the Lake Busum Tree to drive tourism. Unfortunately, as soon as I left, that also collapsed. But, you know, having done all that, what I heard was that here was somebody who was more concerned about development. And I believe that that's what every people wants. You know, I didn't underestimate that Kumasi was the heartbeat of the opposition. Yeah. You know, but
because that's an important point. Because this is the NDC government.
Right.
They are done poorly in the Ashanti region, poorly in Kumasi, and then you get sent there as the regional minister. Did Rawlings say anything to you? The president say anything to you? Did you get to ask what he wants?
I mean, here you are. You get
or you have to assume
you get a transfer on radio. So what do? You just pack up and go, and then you get handing over notes from the previous minister,
Daniel Hineje Kuma.
You know, so you read through the lines and
then you get on with it.
Yeah, and purely administrative. But I mean, I must say that as soon as I got it, the first thing I did was to invite all religious leaders, all political party leaders, and then shared my views with my vision with them. I know one of the things that my party didn't like in Ashanti, which I also did in the Central Region, was to stop party people from holding their meetings at the residency. And again, I think it's a principle that you are there for the whole region. You are not there for a party, So why should they be meeting in the residency? If another party comes to say they want to have a meeting, then would you allow them? So I kept to that principle and moved them out of the residency, not out of spite, but out of principle. And I made them understand that I did the same in the Central Region. And my doors were open. It didn't matter.
Across the aisle.
Across the aisle. It didn't matter who.
How difficult is it as a politician, as a political leader, to do that kind of thing? What's the downside? What do the people of your party say when you do that? Do they say you're a traitor?
I was listening.
You're not a true blue.
Maybe they would say it
person
behind my back, but I was responding to my values. That here you are. If you are a regional minister, you're a minister for the whole region. You're not there because for the party. Yeah, you serve a party in government. That's clear. But you are there for the development of the region. I think that's why I went into a lot of problems with the mayor at the time, because he thought that
the mayor at the time was Sakyi-Addo, I believe.
Precisely, and he definitely was bending to only one side, which I totally spoke against. But then beyond that, from the chieftaincy level, I went into a situation where Pokuwar passed, and then a new one had to be found. And because of the openness, I must say the elders confided in me a lot to what was going on and how I could help, to make things happen.
Let me just jump in here for a second. I'd like to ask you about your friendship, your relationship with Nanose Tutu, the current Ashanti, whom you graciously introduced me to back in 1998. You're watching The Lounge. We're taking a quick break. Back in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching The Lounge. My guest is Kojo Yankah, founder of the African University College of Communications in Accra, teacher, writer, PR specialist, and many things besides. Let's take a moment and toast to authentic whiskey. Let's toast to Johnnie Walker, the original taste of whiskey. Since 1820, Johnnie Walker has remained the world's #1 Scotch whiskey and has won numerous awards for excellence. This is because the impeccable formula of distillation has been jealously guarded over the ages, thus its distinctive taste. Johnnie Walker comes from an intricate blend of a wide spectrum of carefully selected flavors, giving it that unique taste savored by millions all over the world. So let's toast to the unquestionable taste of whiskey. Johnnie Walker, the whiskey the world knows best. Johnnie Walker, keep walking. Drink responsibly, not for sale to persons under 18 years and pregnant women. So yes, did you know Berma Kwekudia?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
I didn't. I was introduced to him by an older colleague of mine before the contest, and was introduced to him in my house in Accra, that he is a possible candidate. It's fine, good to know him. But going to Kumasi, it was very clear that he was a popular choice on the ground.
I remember Sakyi-Addo was also.
Oh yeah, he was a preferred candidate, and but the Queen Mother was very clear. I think that he listened more to the voice on the ground than her own voice, as some people think that, because he was her son. But all the 7 candidates, Kwekudia stood out, and it was popular. They sang through the streets all night, waiting for Kwekudia, So he was probably the last person to go and offer himself. In the contests, every competitor goes to offer himself, led by one of the chiefs and so on. And he was the last one. And as soon as he did, minutes later, the big announcement was made. And by that time, we had struck a relationship. I had to give him cover at some point when the security situation was tight. It was a bit of a risk, but it was a guarded risk, So eventually, he was declared the Otumfo, and the rest.
So that must have been a unique experience for you, because this doesn't happen every week. An Ashanti isn't chosen every week. So,
no. The only thing I can say is that something similar happened in Cape Coast, but on a smaller scale. I get to Cape Coast, and a few months later, Nanambra passes. So I'm also involved in, supervising, the installation of a successor. But as I'm saying, in terms of degree,
you seem to be a change maker.
Or a kingmaker.
A kingmaker.
Yeah. So, yeah, we bonded very well. We bonded very well, and he, in his usual humility, we respected each other, and people wonder if there is a case study of how traditional rule and central government, work together. I think it was a perfect case of collaboration
and mutual respect.
Mutual respect, to the point that in going to address, I believe that was my last major assignment, addressing the Ghana Bar Association. He says, now, stay in the residency, I'll come with my, big official vehicle to come and pick you up. We ride together, something that Ashantis were not used to, Regional Minister and Santini riding together
in the official car.
In his official car. But that demonstrated the kind of bond we had established among ourselves. So, and it continued, even though I stayed in Kumasi for a little less than a year. Most people think I even stayed longer than that.
Right.
But
I guess it's the lasting impact.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy politics? Because you're also an MP for 2 terms, right?
To the point that it was an opportunity to serve. It was beautiful. I mean, the point is that you go into, I went into my constituency after I've been convinced,
Senior. Well, sorry, Agona East.
That, we have all agreed, your name is up and that kind of thing. I responded because I thought that was an opportunity to serve. This is a totally rural constituency. They needed enlightenment, they needed guidance, and I believe I offered it to the ATS.
Because at the time you were director of the Institute of Journalism.
The Ghana Institute of Journalism, and I took that one over. But soon after I went into Parliament, then appointment as Deputy Minister of Information came. So, but I still kept to my constituency. Again, if I had a chance to go to the Constitutional Reform Committee, I would say that regional ministers should not be made, out of MPs. Out of MPs, because it didn't give me enough time to go to the constituency regularly, because you have a whole region like Ashanti, even in the central region, have a big region, and how much time do you get to go to your constituency to interact with your people?
So either your work in Parliament is going to suffer, or your work in the constituency is going to suffer.
For sure.
And your brother, Kwesi, who is now Minister of State for Education in the NPP government.
Right.
Did you guys discuss politics?
There has never been any differences because of politics, because he probably shares the same values, openness, and wanting to, you disagree where you disagree, but that is just after that, yeah, brothers again. I mean, we believe that we were before politics came. So why should politics divide us? So, yeah, you want to vote this way, you want to vote that way, hey, that's your choice. It's not a big deal.
Considering that you all grew up together under the same roof, imbued with the same values, where does how come you kind of signed on with the NDC and he with the NPP? Where do you differ?
Well, I think Kwesi will tell his story better. But what I know is that, even when he was young, as a young university lecturer in Medina, people call him, Medina Rawlings and so on. He was a favorite of Rawlings until 31st December came and he disagreed totally with, why should he overthrow a constitutional government? I think that was the point of departure. And if you read even his latest, the missing pages of June 4th, it was a satiric commentary on the Rawlings regime. But come to think of it, no matter what, in my opinion, what anybody thinks about Rawlings or the regime, there were certain values of accountability and probity that should be left in the system. See, sometimes we link the two together and you throw Rawlings away. But I think that it's a regime. Historically, it's a regime that left some values on us. I tell you, when I was a member of Parliament, it was difficult for Rawlings, because he was around, to want to stray. And Parliament were giving 5 million cedis was how much? To buy cars. And his reason was, no, you shouldn't leave too much above the public servants. So these were times where he wanted.
So what did you drive? Did you when you were an MP?
Oh, my car didn't last a long time, but
it wasn't a 4-wheel drive, I'm sure.
The 4-wheel drive when I became regional minister.
Right.
But it was a saloon car, one of these Russian cars at the time.
Niva or Lada or something.
Lada, like which I bought from, and that was the only car that you could buy brand new with your money, with your parliament money. The rest second-hand cars. So a lot of the parliamentarians would not even go 3 times to their constituency and back, and their cars would break down. See, the whole idea, it's not funny, but he didn't want MPs to live too high above the level of public servants. For me, it's an interesting principle, which we may revisit, because it's when the gap is too wide, then MV and all that come in, and so everybody wants to be in Parliament, because hey, you can be in a 4-wheel drive overnight.
Yeah, I've got here some messages. So I've got one from Uncle James in Suame, who says that good to see Kojo Yankah. He still looks young and photogenic. Says he was one of my favorite ministers growing up. That's Uncle James in Suame. Martha Inosu says, please ask Kojo if he's still a member of the NDC. We hardly see him.
Well, I vote NDC. I'm not a platform, member, but I vote NDC. I've been busy growing my university, so I'm not an active member.
And Nanaya Inabwasi says, what do you make of tourism in Ghana now?
We have a long way to go. You see, if you don't package the products and market them, you see, what we did in the central region was to create tourism development committees from the regional level to all the district level. So when you do that, the districts are involved in identifying their tourism products. All that you do from the regional office to help to train them to develop the product and market them. So you don't do everything from Accra, right? So that's how we were growing. So every district had a district tourism committee up to the regional level. So Pan-Africanist was not a one-man thing.
It was not top down.
It was not. When you bring in somebody from electricity, you bring in somebody from water, you bring somebody from health to be part of a tourism development committee, it's like, why am I here? Yes, you are here because when tourists come, the sanitation must be good, water must be running, So it was an all-involved thing, and everybody got into it. So if we don't develop tourism from the ground, we packaged it. Everywhere we packaged it. In Central Region, we packaged it. Ashanti, we packaged it. You package it, and then you market. You package and you... But otherwise, when everything is scattered, you don't really get, so...
Impact.
Yeah.
And Michael sends this from Bemakam, says, the Yankah brothers have served this country well. Kudos to them. Are you still friends with President Rawlings?
When did we ever become friends? I mean, I wrote a book, The Trial of J.J. Rawlings, way back in 1986. But that was documenting the trial, which a second edition is coming out next year. See, that's what we miss. History is something that is missing in our culture. History. Unfortunately, I check, and senior high school, it's not a core subject. So I asked myself, so what are we doing? If you look at the WAEC, platform, only Sierra Leone, Gambia, and Nigeria offer history. We don't. We call something social studies or social sciences. It's not the same. So anyway, that's so I have that book, and since I left government, I left Rawlings' government, we have met informally about 3-4 times. So
why did you leave?
Well, I left because I think he wasn't treating me well as a minister. I had my own values. I thought I was working but everything was kind of working around me, I mean, here am I, you hear you've been transferred on radio. Hey, wait a minute. And then it's like somebody's hounding you, and then you say, now the next moment, when everything is going well for me and for the people of Ashanti, you say, you are transferred to the National Development Planning Commission. I beg your pardon. I decided that I would better leave and go and do something that I enjoy doing. And that's what I did.
And that's when you set up Yankah and Yankah?
Yankah and Associates.
Yankah and Associates, sort of PR to do PR.
Right.
And then worked on and establishing the university.
That is right.
Which now has how many students?
Oh, a little over 1,500 students.
Okay. And you've...
From 15 African countries.
Right. And of course, you ran it initially, and then
now retired and handed over to a new management team.
Yeah. What do you follow politics? Do you follow what's going on with the NDC?
Sure.
And
for sure, I follow the national, international, African politics. Yeah. For sure.
And are you interested personally in active politics?
No.
You're not?
No. I rather stay, not on the sidelines, but, if opportunities to advise and make comments here and there, in the service of the nation, yes.
Do you remember John Mahama in Parliament?
Yes, I do. And just at the time that he came in, I was also going out. But I remember him at the Minister of Information, because he eventually took the seat as occupying as deputy minister at the time. So,
did you ever think you'd become president?
Well, no, not at that time. I mean, I believe it's when he was picked as deputy, as vice president, that I saw that, because and coming from a family of politicians, I wasn't surprised at all.
2020?
What about 2020?
Do you think that are you following the the debates going on as to who should lead the NDC and so on? Is that something that you tune into at all?
I'm reading, but sometimes I get worried about Ghana. Here we are, and we did that maybe 4 years ago as well. We just elect a government, and then we start talking 2020. It shows how short our vision is. No, listen, we have so much to do. Any government has to build on what the previous one did. And in the first year, it's not even the end of 1 year. We've started talking 2020. So what are we doing as a nation? All that we are looking forward to are elections. I'm sorry, but I'm totally against it. I probably think the media is even overhyping it. But we should think about development. This nation must move. I mean, this nation must develop. And as I always keep saying, we must develop alongside other African countries. We should be moving together. I mean, here we are. We had the greatest chance in 1963 to form an organization of African unity. And here we are now, when all these, look at the American dream under Trump. It's American. We can't own it. It's not ours. Even Ghanaians living in America cannot pretend they are Americans. They are Africans. So why shouldn't we spend some time thinking about ourselves as Africans? We have next door neighbors who are, in turmoil and all that.
In Togo.
These are issues
elections that have been postponed in Liberia. You've got Kenya, Zimbabwe.
There you go. Meanwhile, in this very country, there are some people in the rural area, we're talking about digitization, as if the whole country is digital. We forget that you have about 70% in the rural areas who cannot even find their way on the computer. See, these are issues that bother me. How do we get them out of it? How do we bring them into the digital age? How do we bring them into modernity? So when I hear about 2020, I get bored, I must confess. I really get bored. I think we should reorientate ourselves and find solutions now. It doesn't matter. When it gets your turn in 2020 and whatever you want to do, you can. But let's build a nation. Let's build on what was left. Let's continue to build. Let others come and add on. Otherwise, you start planning now how to become president in 2020. What are you going to do? Are you going to roll back development? Even the discussion should be how we should move forward, why we should correct the mistakes that have been made and we are making and keep going. That should be the discourse. 2020, sorry, I get bored.
Not interested. You're watching The Lounge. We're taking a quick break. Back in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching The Lounge. My guest is Kojo Yankah, founder of the African University College of Communications in Accra, teacher, writer, PR specialist, and many things besides. Let's take a moment and toast to authentic whiskey. Let's toast to Johnny Walker, the original taste of whiskey. Since 1820, Johnny Walker has remained the world's #1 Scotch whiskey and has won numerous awards for excellence. This is because the impeccable formula of distillation has been jealously guarded over the ages, thus its distinctive taste. Johnny Walker comes from an intricate blend of a wide spectrum of carefully selected flavors, giving it that unique taste savored by millions all over the world. So let's toast to the unquestionable taste of whiskey. Johnny Walker, the whiskey the world knows best. Johnny Walker, keep walking. Drink responsibly, not for sale to persons under 18 years and pregnant women. You've gone through some adversity, some really traumatic experiences around 2001 and 2002. 12. When you lost your wife, well, you lost your wife first, and then a year later you got married again, correct? Or thereabouts?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you lost her as well. Talk to me about it, if you can.
Well, I mean, I make everything clear these are practical, real things in life's journey. You never wish it. They come along, but how you deal with your loss is the problem. I mean, you could just bend. You could just even burn out.
Yeah.
When you lose a very close loved one. But that was not my character. I believed that the universe has its own way of changing partners, even changing friends. And so you take them, you bear the pain, but you don't internalize the pain. You move on after it's all over. After all, when we go into the ceremonies of marrying, you say that until death do us part.
Right.
So once death comes, accept it. You see, accepting reality is the ethic here. Accepting reality. It's happened. So what do? You move on.
Susie was, in 2001, and you wrote a beautiful tribute to her, quoting Atukwe Okai. I come to bury you as well as to praise you, not merely out of some dead kindness towards the dead, but out of faithfulness to truth, out of loyalty to faith and belief. Dear AC.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it goes on, worth a read. So then she was buried.
Yes.
And what ailment was it?
There was a respiratory problem that took quite a long time through all the specialists here and elsewhere. And we found out later that it affected her heart, so she had to give in.
Yeah. And then there was Ikua.
Yes. Ikua, breast cancer took her.
Breast cancer.
Breast cancer took her. Yeah, very, very terrible last 2 years, 2010, 2012. Again, if life was something you could buy with money, you probably could have found money to buy it, but breast cancer is deadly. It's deadly, like all cancers, so. But
did you ask why me?
No, I didn't. It's not something that struck me, no. I took one step at a time.
And I remember her very well because we were at your house around Christmas for dinner.
That's right. Pleasant woman, but my thinking about her, it's more of a thinking of what we call cancer. It made me study the whole idea of our orientation about health. I think that we spend too much time on the curative, and we spend very little time on preventive. I don't think that even Cancer Month in Ghana is well spent. All that we ask women to go and do is go and check your breast. How realistic is it? Look at all the women in Ghana. How many have access to those machines? Why don't we spend more time talking about the preventive? What are the risk factors? Let's spend all the time talking about risk factors. Our grandmothers didn't have cancer. Our great-grandmothers didn't have cancer. Why are we now having cancer? That should be the discussion. You know, here we are, our lifestyles have changed. We are eating all kinds of foods. We are, importing everything, Western, cosmetics, and they will tell you in the books that sometimes even perfume, too much perfume is bad, too much sugar is bad, and we keep on giving our children all the sweetest things in the world, So for me, I took it as a lesson and studied more about it, and thought that if I were the president, I will ask the Minister for Health to spend more time on preventive education. Preventive.
And basic health care.
Basic health care.
Hygiene.
Seriously, how many women in Ghana can have access to a mammogram? What? It's a joke, I think sometimes you sit back and see some of the things happening and you wonder whether we are really serious, to develop as a nation. We know, for example, that chemical fertilizers are not good for our soil. We are still importing chemical fertilizers for agriculture. All serious agriculturists will tell you that it is these chemicals that have destroyed our soil and affected our health. A lot of metals in there cause cancer. So,
are you disillusioned about the future?
I am not. I think that the youth now in Ghana, for example, and I believe it's across Africa, constitute the majority of the population. The disappointment I have with them is that they do not know history.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they are in an age with technology that they can propel. They can move far ahead of us if they have the opportunity. But you see, you cannot move too far into the future when you do not know what happened in the past. And that is my concern.
So when you look at your grandchildren, and you think of 50 years from now, you think they will have a better life than you have?
Depending on the kind of education we give them right now. We need to give them values. What the father will say we shouldn't discipline children doesn't mean if they are going wayward, you should praise them. Because you want to behave like, why don't you draw the line? And without using the cane, you can still discipline a child. You should discipline them. We shouldn't say, hey, you will call the police. I beg your pardon.
Uncle Kojo,
Kweku,
thank you so much.
Great pleasure.
Great pleasure.
Great pleasure.
Thank you for watching. Have a good night. See you next week.